Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today in our Let's Talk number 14, I am going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks that I learned along the way that helped me when it comes to my pattern designing. So lately I've noticed that pattern designing and selling, well, clothing items like pants, sweaters, and all of that have become increasingly popular amongst young crocheters. So as a young crocheter myself, as a young crocheter myself, I too, got into that world. And if you go down my list of videos, I even have a tutorial on how to make a sweater, which is not good, not accurate considering the things that I've learned now. As you guys know, I've completed like my first ever real sweater. I consider it because it's actually constructed in a way that makes sense instead of me just trying to figure out the best way to do things. It was really boxy, and this one that I created was very nice and form-fitting and actually looked like a sweater. So I have my handy dandy notebook, and I just want to give you some essentials, like tools. Your toolbox is one of your most important things no matter what you're doing, whether it's crafting, whether it's your everyday life, everyday work. Your tools are important. So first, you guys, it is very important to experiment with different types of hooks. If you see me looking down, I'm just trying to make sure I hit all my notes. My favorite hooks generally err on the bigger side. I don't like using thinner yarns, nor do I like smaller hooks, but I noticed as time went on and my tension changes, I have changed, my hook size as well. I predominantly used a 5.5, and now I notice myself using a 5mm hook. But when you are designing, sometimes a hook change, like the change in the hook size, can benefit your pattern. So when if you find that an area is too big and you're still decreasing and it's not working, try downsizing on your hook and see if that helps. Or sometimes, like, I don't necessarily follow gauge, but I know a lot of people do follow gauge, and sometimes your gauge is different from someone else's gauge. So if you aren't getting the same results, try changing your hook size. And that goes for people who are designing as well, or people who are reading patterns. Okay, a yarn bag. So I carry my projects in an array of different bags. My newest yarn bag is this, and I consider this my pattern bag. So when I am creating a pattern, I will put all of my tools into this one bag with my yarn and my yarn labels. And it's really, really important because it helps you transport all of your items. Keeps everything in one place. You know what your yarn bag looks like, you know what's in there, and you know exactly what project's in there, so you won't have to do too much guessing if you were organized. Next, it's stationery. Guys, I am obsessed with stationery. I have like 15,000 books. So stationery meaning notebooks, pens, erasers, markers, things that's going to help you keep track of your designs. So with that being said, the number one thing, it is so important for you guys to write everything down. Trust me, you will not remember what you did after you did it. There are so many times I have caught myself up like, oh, okay, I'll remember it, and I didn't write it down, and it was a key point in my design. So now I write everything down. This is my pattern notebook. I have a different notebook for my patterns than I do for my podcast. I write everything that I want to talk about in this. All my patterns go in here. Even if it's you jotting it down on a note in your phone, write everything down. Trust me, you will not remember. Next, let's see. Yarn labels. Now, you guys know my history with yarn labels. They just disappear, or I take them off, they disappear. But it is so important for you guys to remember exactly what yarn and what color you're using, unless you're just totally okay with color blocking or whatever. But if you're doing a project and this color is a key point in your design, keep the yarn labels. That also helps with telling the person who you are crocheting it for, who you're designing it for, how to care for the garment, how to wash it, and all those things, what dye lot it came from, what the fibers is, acrylic, wool, everything. So if someone's asking like, oh, this is itchy, like what is the fibers, you're not like, you don't know. You can always reference the yarn label, and you can also jot that down in your pattern or design book. So next, after those are just some of our crochet essentials. Now I want to talk about the design essentials. So designing is probably one of the most joyous things ever. It is equally lovely and frustrating, because that one day where you're just creating something and it comes out so beautiful, you just want to share it with the world, but you can't remember how. That's because you need to write everything down. If your design is going well, grab your pattern notebook. This is mine. Grab your pattern notebook and write it down. Even if it doesn't make sense, write everything down. And that is why even in our design essentials, stationery is important. You want a good pen, you want a good pencil, eraser, any of that. Excuse me. You want that in your arsenal so that every time a new idea, a new design pops in your head, you can just immediately write it down. If you guys don't get anything out of this video, write it down. That's just the number one thing, is write everything down. Next is a tape measure. Guys, I know that I suck and I just rig everything, but tape measures are so important. Everyone's bodies are so different that what works for you is not going to work for the next person. That is why it is so important to have a tape measure. I have probably at least like 5 or 6 of them because I keep losing them. I know, but it's always so important to have a tape measure, and I keep my tape measure with my project in the back because I am constantly checking to make sure I have the accurate length. And you guys, when you start taking accurate measurements, you are going to see that it really is worth it in the long run, because the garments just come out so beautiful and they are just tailored to that individual's body. So tape measures, get you one. You can get them at the dollar store. Get you one. Next, so this is mainly if you are into designing. I think it would be really important for you guys to have different sized models. So if anybody in your family are larger or smaller, take their measurements and crochet that garment based off of their body type. Because then if you plan on writing up your pattern and selling it, you will have a general size to tell people. You can also specify to them like, this is just a general size for like a large, extra large, 2X, 3X, but you can encourage them to grab their tape measure, because everybody should have one, and definitely take their own measurements and supply them with a formula on how to plug in their own numbers. But if not, because some people don't have like that, they can't do that and they prefer everything to be in pattern, get different sized models, write up a pattern for each and every one of them, or take measurements, create a garment, get those numbers, how many stitches, how long the chain, if it's 20 inches, whatever the case may be, because in the end that's going to benefit you. So now say you're not designing, you're not selling your designs, you have a general idea of what's large, extra large, 3X, 2X. So it's really important, guys, to, if you're planning on selling, you have to be prepared that people of all sizes are going to come to you. So it's really important that you do your research and you try as hard as you can to be inclusive for everyone. Now, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just saying, just know that in the long run, that will make you more successful by including different types of body sizes into your designs. Next, I have the last and probably the most important thing is write everything down. Every little thing, everything. It doesn't even matter how minuscule you think it is or you think you're going to remember. You're not going to remember. So just write it down. That's all. I literally have that in, write it down. You see that, guys? That's me telling you to write it down 10 times. I'm going to tell you 10 times more because you do not know how frustrating it is to get to the end of a project and you're like, this is amazing. This is so good. And people are like, oh, I would love to buy this from you. And you didn't write it down and now you don't know how to remake it. So write everything down, get you a good stationery, get you a pattern notebook, a tape measure, get you some good pens and markers and anything that you need to be successful. And guys, measurements are so important. They really are. Honestly, they are so important. So take some measurements too. That's basically it for this video. I hope that this has helped you. I've come a long way on my crochet journey because I used to just wing it to the gods, okay? I used to just do whatever and it came out nice, but I am improving all the time and I want you guys to improve too. So this is just me sharing my knowledge. If you guys have any other suggestions that you can give to our crocheters out there, please leave them in the description box below. We are all helpers one to another, and anything that I learn, I am so eager to share it with you guys, and I hope that you guys feel the same as well. So thank you so much for watching this Let's Talk, and I'll see you in the next one.